Yeah, hello everyone, and welcome to the Hardcore Metal Detecting Radio Show. I'm Derek Asklar. Mr. Craig Talley's on the line. We'll be hosting the show tonight. I already see chat. Bill Marsh on there now, Ohio Relic Hunter. If you guys want to be on chat, just click over there to Spreaker.com and log in. Go to Hardcore Metal Detecting Radio and hit the comment button, and then you can start chatting with these guys that'll be coming on the chat page here. A lot of experience there. These guys own many different detectors, so if you have questions, you can call in at 352-504-4170, or you can just get in there and ask on chat. And if I catch it when it goes by, I'll mention it. And if not, these guys will answer. They're pretty good about it. So, but Craig, shoot, I know you got rained out today. I got rained out today. It's just not been a good day for metal detecting for either one of us, I don't think. But that's what it seems like. We got a tropical.
Yeah, we got 2 days of sunny weather, and then after 8 days of rain every day.
Yeah.
But, then back to the rain. It's supposed to rain 2 more days in a row.
Yeah, we got a tropical storm breathing down our necks, and down here we'll be hitting tomorrow, and I'm hoping it gets a majority of it out of its way before Memorial Day, and Memorial Day celebrations and everything. We're doing a big thing at the VFW. A lot of the VFWs, I think, are probably going to do something. So if you guys live near one, you can probably stop in there, or see it on one of their billboards. There usually they have picnic lunch or something like that, or dinners or entertainment, whatever. Usually open to the public. So nice place to hang out at. But trying to get all that figured out for Monday. And if we get rained out, I don't think we will. But we have the National Cemetery down the street from us, so I know a lot of people will be going down there anyways. So come in and have a hamburger, hot dogs, a couple beers, whatever. That's what I'll be doing on Monday. Trying to hold down the bar stool, right? So,
yeah.
But yeah, just these storms coming through. It seemed like, well, we get them this time of year. It just seems a little early for us to get a tropical storm, but usually it's a little bit later in like the summertime more than anything else. In the fall, right before the fall, there's when we get pounded the most. But yeah, hopefully it just dumps some rain and that's about it. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. I don't want to clean up any more trees, Craig. I'm tired of trees. Hopefully get it out of his system already. But I want to talk a little bit about settings tonight. We could switch off topics, Craig, if you want to, but this is more for the guys that have, the seasoned hunters or the people that have been in the hobby for a while. But the newer people could pick up on this too, because as you get used to your detectors, you start getting away from the presets and all that stuff, and trying to find out your own settings for your detector, which ones make it work the best. And Craig and I have been using the Bliss tool and several other Deus, and I've been messing with this Quest detector, Quest Pro, when I can, when it's not raining on me. But the one thing I'm seeing a lot of is, or hearing talk about is, the way people are running some of these machines, you might be limiting yourselves quite a bit on as far as the iron discrimination goes, or discrimination in general across the board, because anytime you add more discrimination to a detector, in other words, make more objects, make it not go off with the metal detector, you're taking away from depth quite a bit, or you can, depending on how high your settings are. Some of these guys are really running pretty high, all the time. And if you're in a trashy area, or of like a cellar hole site or something like that, I get it. You don't want to be there. But if you're in the middle of a field and work in a field situation, knock that discrimination down quite a bit. Just get above nails. It just gives you more depth with a lot of the detectors, and you might find that as you get used to your detector, even with those low settings, when you go over a piece of iron, if it does happen to come through, usually there's telltale signs of it. One is a jumpy VDI number if you're using a screen machine. And in the tone itself, the more processes, the way I feel about it anyways, we're going to call that a disclaimer. The more processes you have your detector using to I guess, discover a target or what have you, I think that it's taken away from the performance of your detector. where you can open it up, let it breathe, let it, instead of using 6 tones or 4 tones or something like that, try using 2, maybe 3 at the most, pretty much knocking out the iron sound, just to get rid of nails and stuff. And then, as you have these other, 1 tone or 2 tones more than that, you can read a lot of what's going on just by the tone of the machine. When it goes over a non-ferrous, or it's wanting to come through, you're going to have telltale signs that it's going to be iron. And once you learn those, you can really start backing down your machines in a lot of situations, and be able to tell, even though a target comes through, it sounds pretty good, but it's clipping at the end, or it's not giving you a solid VDI. It's really bouncing around. I think it's letting you get a little bit deeper. And, you may dig some iron, but it's okay. You can dig some junk. That's okay, because you don't know what might be down at that level as far as coinage goes, what's masked up and everything. I think it's giving you a little bit better of a shot, with this, Craig, with this Quest Pro, that FenSen, they call it a FenSen, capital FESEN. And I watched a guy use that. He was trying to explain it the best he could. And what he did was he held, he ran a coin over, air testing, over the coil, and got a good signal, of course. And he put a nail with it, or 2 nails. I can't remember what it was. And you could hear the clip of the high tone for the coin, but it was mostly, you could hear that iron grunt in there too, and it was giving him a jumpy VDI. So he flipped it over to FenSen, which is supposed to help you unmask targets, a little chattier, a little bit noisier, but it's supposed to let you know, and give you a different style of tone, or discrimination. It's going to start keying on the iron on that target, and give you tweaks of the non-ferrous item, the coin. It switched them around instead of giving you. It kind of helps you, because you know that the coin is now next to a piece of iron, since it's keying on the iron more. It's kind of a backwards way of thinking about it, but that's the first thing I noticed. He didn't catch it, but it kind of switched the tones around on him, where it keyed on the iron more when he was in the FenSen mode. That's usable to me. I mean, you can find a way to. It's enabling you to hear that higher tone a little bit better, even though it's giving you the iron tone also, versus giving you mostly non-ferrous and then some iron. So you would think it was maybe a piece of a cast iron if you weren't using the FenSen. Cast iron is usually mixed up a lot. It comes through on some detectors better than others. I get fooled by it. It just sounds a little bit too good. So you go ahead and dig in, and it's usually, it'll be a piece of cast iron, but
especially the deeper, the stuff
right.
is.
Sorry, guys, I've got these allergies going on tonight.
Oh my God, my eyes are just burning all day.
Yeah, Pauline is, bless her heart.
There's so many flowers burning, blooming. It's unbelievable. My neighbor just gave me a whole bunch. Planted a bunch in the yard today. But,
yeah.
Man, it's just, my car is just, I got a tan car, but you can just, the windows are just greenish,
Oh, yeah. We got, Pauline, I took her in, I think I told you guys in the last show, took her in for thought it was an upper respiratory infection. Take her in, oh no, your lungs are fine, everything, but you have allergies. And they were just, these things are just torturing. The coughing, Pauline's chest hurts so bad. She goes, it just feels like I broke all my ribs coughing. Throughout the day and everything. Well, we take her back in for her regular appointment, and now they said, oh, you have a sinus infection now. So they gave her antibiotics these antibiotics, Craig, are almost worse than the illness itself. They just wipe you out. I mean, some of this, we're become like immune to a lot of or not immune, but the antibiotics are getting immune to the viruses and stuff like that. That's been going on for a little while, but they must be really dosing this stuff. Like it just feels like she got the heck knocked out of her taking this stuff, but it's the only thing that they have that will get rid of the sinus infection. So it's like, geez, I don't know. I'm going to stop taking medicine altogether. I'm just going to take Advil. Advil has that broad spectrum, I think. So that's it, just Advil. But yeah, so dealing with those, and you're dealing with them up there, just we got stuff blooming. I don't even know what the heck it is. I've never seen it before. I don't know what, like I told you, we had the dog funnels or something like that are coming up real bad, and the these little purple flowers everywhere. I don't know. It's like wildflowers, but I can't remember the name of them now, but they ragweed flowers or something like that. Good gosh, man, just messing us up down here. I'm sure you got a ton of stuff up there, Craig, that's just popping left and right.
Oh yeah, most of this is yards, but we got all these trees, and most of the houses up here have like 0.2 of an acre at least. So you got a lot of trees and grass and stuff growing. Grass pollen's bad too sometimes. You don't even realize that.
I used to have a grass allergy. If I was younger playing football or whatever, get tackled. Certain kind of grasses, man, I just break out like crazy from that stuff sometimes. I don't know. It's on a football field too, of all things. So I know it's just like a grass allergy or something. Bill says I need to go and get some of Granny's Shine, the rheumatism medicine. I'll stick with Dr. McGillicuddy's menthol liqueur. There you go. That if it doesn't kill you drinking it, it'll cauterize everything in your body. So that stuff is wicked menthol-y. Ugh, yeah. But some of these guys swear by it.
It's like that bottle I found called Mother's Friend.
Yeah.
You need some of that.
I woke up this morning, my eyes are just watering like crazy. I'm like, God, what is going on? But then again, I've been mowing and all that stuff too, and trying to get out detecting. And look at doggone, I haven't had poison ivy in forever. I thought I was like immune to it because I had it so much when I was younger, and I got some of that on me too. It's blooming everywhere, sumac and
I got it all around the back of the yard, and up this one black walnut tree that it's growing like right up the tree.
Yeah.
I guess that's poison oak. Maybe it's poison oak. But I had to spray, and it didn't look like it did anything for about a day or two. But now it's starting to die. But I don't know. It's unbelievable how fast that stuff came out. I didn't even see it because I know it. It was the first. That was the first plant my dad taught me about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. First one we found out. The first time I had it, we were baling hay, and I was grabbing those, I think they were like 30-pound bales or 40-pound bales, something like that. I was younger, and it was mixed in with the hay. They got, along the edge of the field and got that poison. Oh, man, I had it all up and down my arms, and had it so bad when I was a kid. When I was a teenager, I never really got it, even though I was in it. It's like I almost had an immunity to it. This stuff is different. It's probably some kind of weird hybrid or something, knowing the way it grows. So,
yeah.
Oh, Pauline says it's a cracker weed. Jeez. But be careful when you're out there detecting, guys. This is definitely green up time. It's greening up big time, and those chiggers and fleas and ticks and God only knows what you're going to run into out there. Just make sure you get some, protect yourself from those ticks and stuff. You don't want to mess with this Lyme disease stuff. We have a couple of people on here that are still battling with it, and it's if you can protect yourself with some of these at least off or something like that. I mean, but Craig, you have that stuff you get from Walmart, and we talk about it every once in a while. You put it on your clothing, your boots, your socks, that kind of thing. And I put it up that link for the socks that this one lady is selling. It's treated with it, and you can you buy these things. I think that was only, Craig, what were they, like $10 a pair or $8 a pair for these treated socks or something like that. And they have other clothing too. I put the link up on there, and I think Bill was the one that mentioned it. On one of the shows, or Brandon did one, but I have it up on the Hardcore Metal Detecting Facebook page, and so check that out. You see that picture I put up of my mother, Craig, with the tree? I don't know if you saw that or not. It's a choker tree, or I can't remember the technical name for it. We were down at Fort DeSoto Park, and we noticed this tree growing around it. And I probably seen it before. I just never took a picture of it, I guess. And she was standing next to it. This tree actually overtook a palm tree, grew around it, and it'll continue growing. And since it's rooted right next to it, it'll actually kill that palm tree. It'll take some time, but it'll choke it out, literally. And if you check out that picture, man, that thing is there. I saw 2 or 3 palm trees where that's where they were. It actually just choked it and it rotted out, and there's just like a hole through it. This big, I don't know, choker tree, and it actually overtook a palm tree, which is pretty hard to do. Those things are pretty resilient, anyways. You think about all the wind and everything else they catch, but yeah, that was some of the plant life. I mean, when I was hunting up there in Tennessee with Bill and Tom up there, they got Jesus trees, they call them. And it's because the thorns are about 2 inches long on these things, and it's like running into a like a, I don't know, a wall of nails. They just stick out everywhere, and on the branches, like almost like leaves, like. And they said, "Don't go into that. It's a Jesus tree." I said, "Why do you call it that?" It's the thorn, the thorn crown. Plus, you say Jesus when you run into it because it cuts you all up. So, and the wait a minute, it's all these little names we got for stuff. I tell you. I don't know if I put the sand spur. We got these little things down here in Florida. You'd be metal detecting, and you go to like take a knee to dig the hole out, and you don't watch where you're kneeling down. It's like the thing of size of a pea, maybe a little bit smaller, but with thorns all the way around it. And these things they're almost barbed. You get them in your foot or your leg or whatever. They're so sharp they'll stick to your fingers when you go to pull them off your shoelaces and stuff. But I was hunting down there and kneeled down and right into my knees, and of course to try to catch myself with my hand and put my hand in them too. And before long, I got doggone sand spurs all over me. That's like, good God. That's the one time I put a pair of gloves on just so I didn't have to get, poked by these things. It's like rosebush thorns, but there's a bunch of them on there. But be careful what you get into. Gosh, man, I tell you that some of this stuff, I don't know what the use of it is. It's like mosquitoes and stuff like that. I never knew. Everything has a purpose. I think it was just their purpose was to annoy the heck out of us. But I see them up in Minnesota and stuff, and Alaska too. They're out there trying to, fish or whatever, and they're having to wear mosquito nets almost on their faces. Just remember Gunner's video, Craig, when he was making those videos of Minnesota. God, man, these things were just everywhere, all over them. I just couldn't tolerate it. I've been like out there with one of those wasp bombs, or the can of spray, just spray in the air to kill them all. I wouldn't.
I was watching the stealth diggers the other day, and it was Charlie and Keebler out hunting, and Keebler had this American flag shirt on. It was crazy, but but he had a jacket on, and he ended up and it's kind of warm outside, and so he goes, "You think I'm crazy? I'm not." He goes, "This is keeping the bugs off me." But I guess Charlie had sprayed down like crazy before they went out. He went out with them, but they were talking about mayflies.
Yeah, I think I heard it. I think I saw this video. That was one they just brought out, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got this new thing called Not Thursday, and it's just basically they do videos the rest of the week, and it's not the main video that they do every Thursday, so it's called Not Thursday. So I like it. They're definitely my favorite channel, and Hoover Boys is close second.
Yeah,
but they really do a good job. They're always coming up, and they got new camera equipment, I guess, because of the Patreon thing. They got enough money where they upgraded their cameras, and it really looks good.
Yeah, the technology they got out, there is some good camera equipment out there, for a decent price, but it just, I don't know, it's just relearning. Some of the stuff is easier, but, of course, they have a lot of settings on some of these GoPros and stuff. You got to, I just did with GoPro settings right off the bat. I tried to do some stuff with it. I guess where you get your information about settings on YouTube or wherever, uh, just try them out first before you actually use them on an actual video you're wanting to to do for YouTube or whatever. Because I had actually recorded, I don't know, about 2 hours of hunt, and I was like, I can't use this stuff. I had the shutter speed or something that was they suggested where to have it at, and well, I had it there, and of course, the conditions weren't prime for those settings, so I had to redo the whole doggone video. But it's kind of hard to do on a live hunt, like a lot of people do. So, but I see, I guess past pursuits. Greg, he was saying, are we still hunting with the Bliss tool? Oh yeah, we will always hunt with the Bliss tool. Let me tell you, I love the machine and everything, but we do use other detectors, and Quest is one of them that I'm using right now, and well, actually all three of them, the Quest 20 and 40 and the Quest Pro. Craig still uses, the Deus and everything, and whatever else he decides he wants to try to use, see if it's pretty good or not. We're pretty versatile on machines as far as that goes, and always probably will be. We sold Blisstal for quite a while, but it's a solid machine. It's definitely a machine I use. So, and
Yeah, I've never done better with a machine than the Bliss.
Nah.
I even with the V3, I was just totally amazed. I mean, I was going back to sites, and just pulling stuff out of the ground.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, you couldn't even hear people and stuff. Most of this stuff with any other machine.
Mm-hmm.
It was, it's like went back. The guy took me to his place because not going to find anything, and he owed me a spot, so I was kind of laughing at myself, and I go, I've found stuff just about every site people said that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and so the first day I get a company letter G and a couple bullets, and he got all upset about that, and but he didn't want to hunt anymore. He hunted around, didn't find anything, so I said, can I go back? And he goes, yeah, go back all you want. So I said, all right. So I go up there the next day, and I'd right 10 feet, and I'd gone over it with the Deus the day before. And it was right next to this stump because I remember, going around it, and I get this moderate signal and I dig a breastplate 16 inches down.
Yeah, that was sweet.
Was like, that guy was going nuts. Oh my God, he was so competitive,
But if you don't have a machine, every machine's going to find you something. But some of them are just better. They're higher grade, higher level machine, and you can't put up a Radio Shack Special against a CTX or a Deus or anything and expect to do as good as they do. I mean, the technology's not in it, So these newer machines are getting better depth, but I don't know. The Bliss tool's a different animal. It's always been it's just different. I don't know what it is. It's like in between a VLF and a pulse. I swear. I mean, the way it's like having a pulse induction depth with VLF discrimination. It does some wild stuff. I'll always use it, man. Anytime I'm going to a spot that's been hunted, that's the first detector I'll grab. I don't care which model it is. I don't, I even have a V2, which is I don't know if there's very many in the U.S. at all. I don't think there is, but I got one a couple 3 years ago, Craig, something like that, on a trade, and heck, I kept that bugger, So, but yeah, the V3s. I've had several guys, and Craig even mentioned one before the show. A guy from Australia, and I know we have some of you all listening from Australia and Europe and Germany and everything. I see you on the analytics, but he was asking about. He ran into some really bad mineralized ground in Australia, which I hadn't really. I know they deal with that, the black sands and everything, and he's using a V3 in there. And Craig was telling me about this. I guess you messaged through Craig, but I'll just tell you because I think you're listening anyways. But make sure your discrimination toggle on your V3, that's the bottom left-hand toggle. Make sure it is in number 1. Do not use automatic ground balance on that mineralized ground. You're going to get better results running a ferrite ground balance, which is 7.5 would probably be good on your ground coarse and fine. Run a low gain, like 1 on your gain. Put your discrimination level about 5 and your discrimination depth around 9.5. Run a 4 threshold, and you might need to use a little bit of silencer, but you should be able to get through that, no problem with it. The reason I'm telling him this is pretty much because he was saying it was erratic no matter what settings he was using, and that's a clear sign that if it's a V3, it's, I don't know when it got to you or if you bought it used, but if it's a original, which is B2013, the battery may need to be replaced on that. If you contact me, I'll tell you who to get it to, or because I can't deal with that over here in the U.S. Well, I guess I could, Craig, if you really wanted to send it to me, but that's you got to go through customs and all that stuff. You don't want to mess with that. But
it might be easier than going through Bulgaria.
Well, yeah, I think I'm, and I don't even know if I'm allowed to do this or not, but I'm about ready to put a video up on how to do this, but I don't know if I'm, I would normally, but I don't know if I'm, confidentiality kind of things. I don't know if I should do that or not, but it's just be careful if you do attempt it yourselves on a machine that does not have a warranty still in effect. I'll just tell you, be careful, because you can bend something or hit that board the wrong way, or one of the connectors could hit it. Just be gentle when you put the machine back together again, and understand that you're voiding your warranty if you have one. So don't, obviously if you have a V6 and you just got it, in the last year, you don't want to do this, because you don't want to void the 3-year warranty on the parts and everything inside of it. So, but yeah, that's the two scenarios. If you can't get it stable at all, period, no matter what setting you're using, that just tells me the battery's getting low. It's just like on a whites or they get real sensitive, real high, falsing and stuff like that, and you can't control it. Usually it's because the voltage has gone a little bit lower on the batteries, and it's no different than a bliss tool, in that respect. Once the batteries start going down, this is a 3-cell LiPo battery, and so there's 3 cells in this brick, and if one cell gets too low, it becomes carnivorous eventually, and the other 2 will kill it. And then we only have 2 cells, which means the detector's not running with a full charge. So that's why you got to replace the battery. It happens. I don't know. Craig, I still have the original battery in mine from 2012 in my V3. Mm-hmm. But then again, I'm religious about putting them on the charger once a month, letting them show green lights, taking it off, and whether I use it or not, I do that once a month to keep them charged up so that they never become carnivorous and want to feed off the other cells. That's the best thing to do. I mean, you're not going to hurt these batteries by charging them. Just don't leave it on the charger. That's a big thing. I see people do that a lot with a lot of different products. I mean, if your LiPo battery, and no matter what you're using, is not charged up in like 5 hours, I would say unplug it, because leaving this. Damn, Craig. You taking a drink of coffee?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We heard it go down, brother. It went down okay. It came through.
Yeah,
like
I'm not choking or anything.
Okay. Yeah, well, I knew that. That was funny. I heard right here on the radio. But yeah, it's anytime you're charging up for these LiPo batteries, I don't care if it's your cell phone or whatever, I don't like to leave this stuff on all the time, because even on my Mac, that charger box, man, that thing can get pretty hot anyways, or even on a PC laptop or whatever. You feel that box right there when it's charging. Boy, that sucker gets really hot. And when your computer, I don't know, when it's fully charged, it's good to let it drain down some, and let it, do a full cycle anyways. But with metal detectors, I don't care if you use rechargeable batteries. It's not really a good idea to leave them plugged in all the time. I think overcharging, or possibility of an overcharge, is just as bad as being a low charge, or being wore out. It can actually have kind of the same effects and take away from the life of your battery. And that's what I have found. That's just opinion or whatever, but definitely with the bliss tool, you don't want to leave this charger on for more than 5 hours. If it's not charged up after an hour and a half, 2 hours, I'd start keeping an eye on it. Usually these machines charge up very quickly. I've had some take as long as 3 hours, but usually they're showing you green lights after 3 hours. So I usually tell customers that, leave it on for 5 hours. If it doesn't do anything, unplug it. Next day, plug it back in, see if it's, another 5 hours, and it's not charging up all the way, or not showing all green lights, it's definitely your battery, and you need to have it replaced. There's something, or you let it run all the way down, or left the machine turned on all night. Craig, you've done that. Mike's done it. I mean, a lot of people have. They leave their headphones plugged in, and they set the machine down and forget totally. And it happens to the best of us. We'll do it eventually, at least once in our career, but we will never let it happen again. So that's what I always think. It makes you so mad the first time you do it, you don't ever do it again. But yeah, it's that's kind of like the kiss of death.
I did it twice in a row.
Oh, that's right, you didn't you? Craig, doggone it, you're supposed to be the seasoned hunter now. Oh, shoot.
Well, the trouble is, I had the headphones, plugged in, and the machines, and I had it just sitting up against the wall outside. So I just grabbed it and put it back inside.
Yeah.
And forgot to turn it off.
Yeah.
So now I usually check twice to make sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, especially if you had the volume all the way down, you wouldn't hear anything. And,
yeah.
I think Paul Hill did it. Matter of fact, he got his machine. He had just charged it up. He was outside messing with it or something like that. He came back inside, set it down because we were supposed to hunt the next night. So at the beach. Well, he showed up at the beach, turned his metal detector on, and it was showing a red light, and it just drained it out. He goes, "Oh my God! I thought that thing was on when I took it out of my car. I reached down to turn it on and it didn't click. Click on." He goes, "I think I just killed my battery." I said, "Yeah, you killed it all right. It's totally drained. Just about. You couldn't even get anything with it. It was just showing a red light." And then I think Mike Miller or Tom Jones did it, and then you did twice, Craig. You did it on a V6 and a V3 or something like that, or was it the same machine?
V6 twice.
Twice on a V6, yeah. Yeah, so I got, it's just one of those things. That's the only. Well, it's not a bad thing. I mean, well, it is leaving it on, but I mean, it's actually the battery in these machines last a long doggone time. I mean, I've had a lot of LiPo batteries, but.
Well, I got one of the original V3s, and it finally went out about 5 months ago. Yeah,
you got to send that to me.
And I got the V5. I got to send to you too.
Yeah, get these. Well, I know Brent. Brent sent me his machine. I don't know what happened, Brent. I mean, I got a thing in the mailbox yesterday, and it said you wanted a signature on it, which I get that. I wasn't home, so they just took it back. I waited for it today, and the mailman never brought it today. So I guess on Tuesday, because Monday's a holiday, we're gonna run over to the post office and get it. And I'll get the battery. Well, I guess I think that he had damage. Believe it or not, he shipped it somewhere, and the box came all beat up and everything. So he says he thinks that the control, the knobs, some of them are bent. I'm like, okay, well, I'll fix that up for you. And I do this for you guys. I mean, if you message me on Facebook or email me or whatever, even on the chat here, if you guys have an issue. I think Chris Engel called me, and he hadn't used it in a while because he's been working so much, and he wanted to get a battery put in it. So yeah, I'll do that for you guys. I don't charge a lot, nothing, but it saves you from either doing it yourself and voiding a warranty or something like that, or shipping it overseas. That can be a pain in the butt if you don't do it right. Make sure you know what you're doing when you ship overseas anywhere. You have the right paperwork and all that stuff, what it's valued at, and it's not real bad, but it can be if you don't know what you're doing. You don't want to forget a piece of information and get stuck in customs. That seems to be the scenario. I know Gunner did it a while back. I told him I'd send it for him. He said, no, I got it, and his machine was stuck for 6 weeks in customs because he didn't have the right return information. Craig, I don't know. He did something wrong, but yeah, not much anybody can do when it's stuck in customs. So, but yeah, they eventually released it or whatever, or got the right paperwork or whatever, and then it was okay. So just be careful when you're shipping any machine overseas, or buying from somebody. You usually see like on eBay and Amazon. There's ratings on both, isn't there, Craig? I think there is, as far as shippers go.
Well, yeah. Not the shippers, but the
sellers. Yeah, sellers information. Rating. Yeah, if you see somebody with an 80 or 85 on their little rating, I'd be real cautious. I mean, most of the ones you're going to see are going to be 95% or above, are going to be the good people that do what you should do as a seller, getting the stuff off to you faster, shipping it, and no problems. But you do find them on there. They have like 80s and 85s. I'm kind of real leery about them, and I'll go to somebody with a higher rating, uh, or I'll go to their. You usually see the comments people make, and if it's something they didn't have any control over, like a post office or something, the mail is horrible, man. Sometimes it can be really bad. I know I've shipped stuff out, and 5 days later, and I 2 day ship it, and the person will call me, well, I still haven't got this or that. I said, well, I shipped it out. I got, here's a tracking number. And then the next day it shows back up at my house for no reason. I don't know what the deal is with that. It had the right right address on it and everything. So sent it out again, didn't change anything. It went right through. So it does happen more often than I remember it happening 5 years ago. I don't know what the deal is with that, but just, bear in mind, it's probably not, no matter who you're buying it from here in the States even, if you don't beat up on the shipper. Because, if it is a post kind of thing, you don't want it, don't want to blame him for something he has no control over. So sometimes people get bad ratings on something like that, and, your hands are tied. All you can do is put it in the mailbox, right, Craig? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, with these settings on the V3s and, even the V5s, they're all different. These are different models, and they do different things. And they react a little bit differently. They're very powerful. I mean, these machines, the Blissful machines, are like having your detector on max gain when the Bliss tool is at like 0. So the Bliss tool is really powerful, but in that power, you have to know how to control it. You can't run these things on. Well, I can run it on 10 gain if I wanted to, but I don't see any reason to do that. The amplification of that item coming out of the ground, you're getting pounded, so you're almost having to read the tone even more because it'll come out really tinny, overmodulated. It's like having a stereo system on cranked all the way up to max. You're going to get that crackling in the speakers and overmodulation and stuff like that. That's the same way your detectors mostly work. If you crank up too much gain, if you don't control that with one of the other settings, you can be, hindering yourself more than you're helping yourself. Less is more. Use your sensitivity on your machine. Your threshold even. Some of these thresholds, like on the White's machines, I used to run just barely a hum in my ear. Just barely be able to pick it out because as you turn that threshold up to be, or down, whatever, you're trying to keep it. I think you want to keep it as high as you can and keep the machine stable.
Yeah,
I
run like 1 gain, a lot, and I can get the threshold up around 6 or so.
Right.
Even sometimes even higher if I use I had it up 6.5, 7 the other day with probably 5 silencer.
Mm-hmm. And this will work. I even run the saltwater sand with the V3. I think we did tests with it, or no, it was a live hunt, and I dug a 14-inch quarter in a wet salt sand. And it took 2 of us to dig it out because the hole kept on collapsing. But I wasn't running any crazy settings. As a matter of fact, I was running the ground balance at 0, and I'm running like a 0 gain, and I had the silencer up to 6 or 7, something like that. But it still nailed the heck out of it. So you don't want to blast the ground, especially wet salt sand. That's a kiss of death for most VLFs. If you try to pump power, it's going to be a noisy mess with most of them. You gotta tone that power down a little bit, and even your sensitivity you have to work with. So we were privileged to have a silencer on this machine. It's actually a fine tuning for the threshold, plus it controls the eruption of sound on a good target. So you can play with that and make them work together, nice harmony. If you do it the wrong way and you leave the threshold really low and turn the silencer up high, you're actually going to hinder yourself. So you got to find the happy medium, and that's why we give you the presets. You can work from there, but don't be afraid to try stuff no matter which detector you're using. Sometimes the craziest settings work. I mean, you don't know how how it's going to affect the detector as a whole, as everything's working together. if that detector has that capability, or maybe nobody knows. I've done stuff with this Bliss tool that even the maker can't figure out how I made it do it, but it's a something that can be done over and over again by different people, a test or whatever, that kind of like the bottle caps and quarters not pinpointing in the same spot. He didn't believe me on that. I said, well, I can prove that to you real easy. And he was scratching his head because he never thought about that being even an option or whatever, that the machine would even do that. So you can come up with a lot of these settings just by taking, 20 minutes in a new situation, new site, to if you're having issues with sound or something like that, being chatty, work with the settings a little bit, because it's going to make it, the next time you go out there, you're going to know about right where they need to be at. So especially with these other detectors, I noticed that with the Quest. I kept it when I did my testing with these machines pretty much at what the manual says is the presets. I wanted to do that, but it did tell me in there right off the bat to run the sensitivity as high as possible, but that as long as the machine is stable. So in other words, you turn it up until the machine is not stable and then back it off. And that's what I did. I came up with, I think I was running on 80, between 75 and 82 or something like that on the sensitivity. And it was running fine. I wasn't getting any weird beeps or falsing or anything like that. So I'm pretty sure I found the sweet spot as far as the sensitivity. Now the rest of it comes down into my discrimination levels and stuff. And if you have the capability of just turning off the sound on iron targets, in other words, you could essentially technically be running almost like an all metal. Well, I wouldn't say it's like running an all metal, but you can just turn off the sound to it. You don't need to just discriminate them out. Like the White Spectra V3 was like that. You could just turn off the sound to all the negative numbers, or whatever numbers you wanted, and just keep all the rest of them on a single tone or two-tone. And that way you're not losing depth by running too much discrimination. And I don't know if this is going to be Craig, I don't know if that's going to be a problem in the future. But on the last, I guess prior, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, that's always been an issue about running too much discrimination and not getting the depth because of it.
Oh, yeah.
But now yes, we're going to lose some, like with the Bliss tool, you lose, but you're not losing a lot. When you're talking about digging a 14-inch dime, I'm not going to quibble about, a quarter inch or 3/4 of an inch of loss, because, it's so far above everybody else as far as the depth they're getting. I don't feel bad about that. Now, if I'm really going to be technical about it, I'd have to run it wide open, which I didn't see really a need to. It's going to go off on something, it's going to go off on it. If not, then, there's nothing there anyways in that depth range. So, and another thing you guys have to think about also is, I've noticed with these new detectors too, that whisper tones or softer tones on deeper targets. And a Quest is really good at that. I can raise a coil up. I'm getting the same tone, but it's getting quieter. And so if I'm getting those quieter tones, I know they're deeper right off the bat. So, if you can have your discrimination level, you don't want to boost, like on the whites. I have to use examples because I don't know how to put it into words, but on a 12-inch dime with the White Spectra V3, I was getting a repeatable signal, but it was in the iron tone, and the VDI number was reading up at negative 93, I think it was, because the White's machine has actually from negative 95 to positive 95. So it was flipping over into the iron range. Because it couldn't tell what the item was in the ground. It knew something was there, but it couldn't read it, so it automatically went to iron reading on there. So I would have passed it by on a 12-inch quarter. Having it set up differently, I don't know if that would really help. It reached its depth, in other words. You're only going to get so deep with your detector, no matter which one you have. Once you get past that, then the readings start getting really kind of gibbery. Or they could be really hard. And I think that's where you work with the Deus, Craig. When you get those high tones, you're listening for that tweak. You can tell it's there, and it's just really, really, really deep. And it's just telling you that, dig me. the dig me signal, and it comes up. I've always said, at least half of it's the user of the detector. Their style, their way that they get the most out of their machine. Not just the machine itself, because I've seen people use what we would consider about low mid level machines, but do as good with them as they would do on a low end high level machine. They know the machine better, so they're able to make it do. As you get more experience with the machine, it enables you to do more stuff with it, to understand it better. But don't restrict yourself with these presets. They'll get you by. They'll get you started. They'll give you a general idea of what you're listening for. But please don't be afraid to go on the wild side. Go hardcore and start really working with the machine. If anything else, you just put it back to where you started at. But you might find that, hey, I can run a higher sensitivity. I can run less discrimination, or I might want to run 2 tones instead of 6 tones or whatever. Just knock out, the iron tone. You want to hear iron and you want to hear non-ferrous. Most relic hunters would probably do that. I would think so. We really don't care whether it's lead, copper, nickel. We want to dig all of that. Where a coin shooter, somebody that's after coins, is going to want the high end of the spectrum, like from, I don't know, Craig, 60 up on the VDI numbers.
Yeah.
And
a Nautilus has discriminate in the left ear and all metal in the right ear.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. The whites can do that too. The Spectra can. You could turn that just like that, if I remember right. That's a pretty cool idea too. I like that. It does help you, I think. I don't know. That's the way I felt about it anyways. And I didn't know either. On the Nautilus, if it was... Okay, you said you got iron in one ear, non-ferrous in the other. Has it ever played in both ears? Like would it do that? Like if you went over a deep signal?
Yeah, because, it'll give you... The all metal didn't go as deep as the discriminate unless
Right.
you turn it way up, and then it was just too loud. But like a bullet would give you both tones. 8, 9, 10 inches deep. You could get both tones on the bullet. A button you'd only get one. The discriminate side. Coin, small coin, you'd only get a discriminate side if it was, fairly deep. So the all metal would, like if you went over like a cannonball or something, you could get a banging all metal signal off something like that, but you'd also get a discriminate signal too.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, you could hear nails in the ground, kind of whoop, whoop, whoop,
Yeah.
stuff like that in one ear, but mostly you were waiting for that left ear signal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've noticed with just trying these Quest machines out that when you start off with a new machine, you almost hunt better than you do your style or your sweep speeds and everything. You're a lot more cautious because you're with a new machine. You're trying to get to know it. And I find that a lot, when I was doing these quests. I said, oh, wow, okay, I'm paying attention more. I'm just not setting it up and going with it. And sometimes that helps your hunting style a lot more. You're a lot more careful on your overlaps, on your swings, the way you have your coil set, everything. Treat your detector, even if you've been using it for years, treat it like a new detector once in a while. You just go out there with a totally open mind about your detector and turn it back. Turn it back to where, you think the presets probably were, and see what you can do with that machine, especially if it's a hunted out spot. And you don't usually find a whole lot. What do you have to lose? I mean, start working with the settings a little bit more like you would if you were just getting started with the machine. Sometimes you find a new way of adjusting your machine to get a little bit better performance maybe. And that's what we're all after. Once you reach the level of your detector, as far as performance, the most you can get out of it, that's the time when you start looking for another detector. A better one with more adjustments, more stuff in it. To improve yourself or whatever, to improve your hunting, sights and everything, getting more targets. So
the only other thing you can really do is get a bigger or smaller coils.
Oh yeah, well yeah.
to help you out.
Having a different coil is almost like having a different detector, and
Oh yeah,
it's definitely. And I'm not going to say every coil is going to be great for your machine because you're just going to figure out, what brand. There's a lot of different, what SEF and Coil Tech and all these aftermarket coils, not to mention the ones that the companies have for their own detectors. I mean, I think of my wife's machine, I had 9 different coils for, and I knew every one of them, and I spent the time with it. And I actually found sometimes, like with the 6x8 SEF coil with the White's machine, I liked it a lot compared to the, was a 7x9 they have, that white coil. So, just you're going to these coils sometimes unmask targets better. They get, a lot deeper. They may not give you great VDI numbers because, like the AT Pro with the tornado coil. I mean, you're not going to get a good target ID as far as the VDI number, but it's going to give you a repeatable signal. And so you become a sound hunter, and you're getting the right tone, and you're going to get deeper targets, to get deeper non-ferrous targets. Uh, and going from, I would say most cases, I think, Craig, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this. I would say I'd get, if you have a standard coil that's like 11 inches, buy a smaller coil. That's going to enable you to get into these really trashy house sites and stuff, these cellar hole areas, and get in between targets better. I wouldn't necessarily go with these great big coils unless you really want to rip your arm off, more or less. I did that. I mean, I went with the 15 by 18 coil with the SEF coil for the whites, and my God, it was like swinging a garbage can lid around. Just it was heavy. It just wear your shoulder out, and I didn't find anything that would have made me believe that it was that much better. But with a smaller coil in the same area, I found a couple targets that the big coil didn't get at all. And I think it was because they were around a lot of like iron and stuff in there, and the swath, the blade, the cut.
Well,
of
you
the
lose
coil.
sensitivity with a bigger coil too, I think.
Yeah,
The bigger the coil.
Right, and they're also more forgiving though. And the mineralized soil and stuff like that, they could be easier to adjust, easier to manipulate that coil to work in a different, harsher environment. But you get a smaller coil, that can get really noisy. I mean, that's like our 7x9 with the bliss tool. I mean, you can't run that like you would an 11-inch coil. It's going to drive you crazy. You've got to increase some of your settings and back down others to make it work right for you. It will work right for you. Just you're going to make some mistakes, because I did right off the bat too. But I came at it from the same premises I did from the White's machine. That 5x5.3 coil that White's has. I've dug 15-inch nickels with that thing. I don't know why. It shouldn't have been able to do it, but by golly, that concentric coil did it. I was in the perfect spot, maybe the perfect angle. I don't know. But I've done that a couple of times with that coil. But most of the time, I didn't really get a lot with it, but it was able to get in between the targets and unmask targets, because, with those big coils, they're picking up a bigger area, which means there's a lot more targets. If you have a trash area, it's going to mess with that machine a lot more. So, I would say probably go with a smaller coil first. They're usually less expensive, but it gives you a different kind of chance with your detector. It turns it, it's like having a new detector, essentially. You're running the same frequencies and all that stuff, just the way that the coil works. And it's also a concentric coils and double D coils. And, well, they have these they call them elliptical, and, I don't know, blade coils and everything else. Essentially, they're all, you either have concentric or you have double D. And, Craig, I don't think there's any other kind out there, is there, other than the style of the coil itself, as far as being butterfly or shaped or whatever you want to call it. But the way they work, that's something else. As you get more in depth in coils, there's a lot of different coils. You can look at Coil Tech. I mean, God, Nell coils too. They have a lot of different kinds for a lot of different detectors. You can't. Hang on. Sorry, guys. Oh, wow, allergies. You cannot take. I've had this question asked to me. You can't take if you have an MXT. I just using whites because I know them pretty well. You can't take a MXT coil and expect to use it on a, uh, a Spectra V3 because number one, the frequencies they're set up for are different. Okay, MXT, I think is what 15 kilohertz, Craig, something like that. And then you got,
Yeah.
you can't just interchange coils. They have to go with the machine model that you're getting them, that you're getting for them. I think I want to say the White's coils were marked for the Spectra were marked with an H on them. I think on the coil ear. It's been a while, but yeah, there usually markings on there. But you can't just buy a coil, a White's coil, and say, "Oh, it looks the same as the other one." It's not going to work right for you. And there was I think it was I said it before. You get MXT and a DFX. There's one in between that, and we had a coil from it. I know it won't work because I tried it and it didn't work. So, but yeah, you can't just interchange like that. Make sure you're getting the right coil that you need. As far as for the right model, a lot of ours with the Bliss tool. I mean, I can tune these coils to your machine. If you buy one aftermarket, like you find one on eBay or Amazon or whatever, and you want it, and you have whether you have a V3 or a V6 or whatever, I can actually take that coil and I can tune. If I just need your machine and the coil, and I can tune them together, it gives you like a 98% or better tuning. Where before you do that, you might be at like 89% to 92. They're pretty close. The bigger the coil, the more adjustment it needs. Like the 7x9s, you don't have to worry about. You can buy a 7x9 coil, put it on just about any one of the Bliss Tool machines because they all run in the same frequency anyways. But it doesn't need to be tuned. It's very, very close to being perfect as it is because it is a small coil. But when you get to the 15-inch coil, that's where I need to start looking at, the serial numbers, see when the runs were, and they have, the markings on the screen there, or whatever the information on the screen. I'll know if it will match up and what the percentage is. I've never had one more than 11% off from perfect, so that's not bad when you consider most of the coils out there are anywhere from 78, Craig, or 75 to 85%. I think that's what we read once somewhere, yeah. Something like disclaimer. I don't, That's what I read a couple of years ago anyway, so it may have changed.
Yeah, basically stock coils.
Right.
The mass-produced.
Yeah, they produce them. They make sure the coil works. It does, they pass their quality control test, and then they take the coils and they put them in the boxes. And, unless you have a company that sells them as tuned or whatever, and like the Nautilus, you had a way of adjusting, isn't that? You had to tune the coil to the machine automatically on the knobs, right, Craig? So you had that ability to tune the coil.
Yeah, you had two knobs, and you had to hit the sweet spot on both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you don't have this adjustment on a lot of machines. Blissful didn't have that either. Well, I guess it could possibly mess with that a little bit on the frequency because it does have 600 hertz difference between minimum and maximum. That you can adjust the frequency and may be able to accomplish that same kind of thing. I had to try that, Craig. I don't know if that would help with a coil that wasn't matched up close or not.
The only time I took different coils from different machines and used them was I took a Bandito coil because they had an 8-inch coil,
mm-hmm.
and I put it on a Toltec 100, and it worked, but the notch wouldn't work, and the meter didn't work right.
Right.
Like a silver dime was supposed to read like 90, it would read 80 or 78.
There's another machine, another machine like that does that. It reads up differently. I can't remember what it was now. That sounded really familiar though to me about it reading totally off. And maybe that's what they're talking about. I don't.
Yeah. So, it was probably different. I can't even remember now what the frequency differences were.
Right.
Or if there was one, but it was just, it was kind of funny, when we tried it, start running a silver dime across the coil, and I was
mm-hmm.
like, look, it's only reading like 80.
Right.
And so we tried other things, and it was pretty bizarre how the meter just was totally off.
Right.
for what it was, when we were rolling it over. But it was also newer type technology on the coil
Yeah, yeah.
that they've come out with.
And with these, I have to take my hats off to these guys like Nell Coils and well, really all the aftermarket coil companies, SEF and Coil Tech and Nell Coils. You know what? Those coils are pretty doggone tuned. When you get one of those, I never had really any problems at all with those SEF coils as far as well, everyone except for the 15 by 18 because I wasn't ever sure on that why I wasn't finding any deeper stuff. Um, it may not have been there to find, but I'm amazed how well these coils work because I remember that 8 by 6 coil SEF coil for the whites. Man, I love that coil. That coil could unmask some stuff better than the whites coils could, and they obviously got it right as far as frequency, and I don't know what the match rate is. How they match up off the bat, but it was pretty doggone good. It had been close to 90% anyways. Once you get above anything below 90%, you can usually notice a little bit. Wouldn't you say, Craig? As you get up there, I would say 89, 90. It's going to be. You're probably not going to be able to tell a difference unless you're a seasoned hunter, a guy that goes out all the time. You would probably maybe notice it a little bit more than a person that goes out once in a while. They're not going to notice a big difference. We're kind of splitting hairs a little bit, but the better settings you have, the better things are matched up, the better performance you're going to get. And Craig and I are all about knowing that the detector is performing at its best. Then it's up to us to do our job. When we're out there trying to find stuff. It's going to become human error after that. Once your machine's, tweaked out right. And, that's why I say it's 50% the hunter's fault if it doesn't work, or 50%, the congratulations goes to, you know what I mean, if you got it right. So I hear more guys, oh, this thing's a piece of junk. I can't find nothing with it. And they're using a top-of-the-line detector. Well, it's obvious that either there's a problem with the detector itself or it's just not set up right. And, it just takes time. There is a learning curve with every single machine you ever buy. There's probably going to be a learning curve. If it's a different brand or whatever, you're going to have to learn this machines. So everybody says, a machine, oh, that's a huge learning curve. Well, I don't care if you're using I don't care if you're using a CTX or a Deus or something like that, and you buy an AT Pro. You're going to have to learn that machine because they're not going to act the same. All the time. They're not going to do the same thing and adjust the same way as your other detector. So I've never really understood the learning curve thing, why it's a bad thing. But, some people say, oh, I can't turn it on and go.
Well, it's like a lot of people don't want to read the manual. You get a CTX. Don't get a CTX if you're not going to read the manual.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're going to have to do some reading.
Same with the Deus, when you first get it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This Quest Pro.
The higher end machines, got more going on them. And if you don't want to do that, you ought to get maybe a middle of the line machine that's easier to work with. But it's like I've actually discouraged a few people from the V3Is because it's not for everybody on the programming and stuff on it.
It'll
but
teach
if you're
you
into that, but if you're into that machine does just about more than just about any machine, as far as control and everything.
Right.
So, I told this guy I know down in Southern Virginia that, he was thinking he got a good deal on one. And I said, so you're a programmer? And he goes, what? And I go, you got to be a programmer to use that machine. And I think he called Jude too.
Yeah.
He wasn't real happy once he found out how.
Well, and I hope he was okay when he talked to me because it's like I told him. I said, man, you got to have a learning curve. Keep it simple with that machine unless you really want it. That machine has the capability of teaching you so much. That White's machine, you will understand what all these settings do. And how to adjust them, and you can carry that over to other detectors. and the way the performance of those particular options work. I mean, it gives you a really good idea of what they are, how to set them up. It can make you a better hunter, as far as I'm concerned. It made me a better hunter, definitely. But then again, I went OCD on it, and it drove my wife to the breaking point of a nervous breakdown with me beeping and everything else on this thing. But it did teach me all this stuff, and I carried it over to every detector after that, even the Bliss tool. You know, I knew what I was getting into, and I was hoping I could explain it to people through the videos and stuff so they would understand that that machine, you're only hearing from me and Craig about 50% of what that machine will do, because it's information overload if we do it any other way. That's what we've always felt, because I keep on hitting you with this stuff over and over, more and more and more stuff, and you're like you're still on page 1 and I'm on page 50, so you're not. Then it becomes bothersome. And once you learn the basics of the machine, just like with any other machine, you can start, kind of strifing out on this thing. Because to be honest with you, Craig and I don't know about Craig, I think he can, but like Ahmed and me and Darren Groves and stuff, man, we could pump the power to this Bliss tool. I can run 10 gain and, down to 5 discrimination depth and these crazy settings that you would never probably use, because you may not understand what you're hearing if you just started using the machine. So why give you these crazy settings and show you these tests where we're running all this power when you as a user can't take it out of the box and do that? I mean, you wouldn't even know what you were listening to. You might be able to re-perform the test, but we wanted to give you settings that were legitimately startup settings, like turn on and go for the most part, but are going to give you good performance. And that was always our idea with the Bliss tool. Seeing's believing. Once you see it yourself and you see it in action, you'll know what we're talking about with this machine. And, I would say we probably had Craig, 95% as far as people buying the machine, even if they were new to the machine, they're new to metal detecting. It's like 95% approval rate as far as the way the machine worked. They definitely knew it got deeper. They definitely knew that they were hearing targets they didn't hear with other detectors. So yeah, it gives you that. But we didn't want to overload you guys. And I have some videos that I've never even put out because it was so much to that extreme side that it would I felt like it would turn people off the machine, not understanding what they're doing and having it erratic, thinking they got to pull it out of the box and run those high settings like that. Because with the V3, when it first came out, before Craig and I even got involved, guys were trying to run that machine at 10 gain and thinking that it was just like every other detector they ever got. And they were just totally, oh my God, this thing is horrible. It's false is all over the place. Well, yeah, you're running 6,000 watts through a machine. It's not going to work right. So, you got to go in there with, less is more attitude. And as you get more comfortable with the machine, Ahmed used to do these tests, and I've done them over there in Bulgaria too, where, we're going through 25 inches of mineralized rock to get quarters, and we're getting them, or gold francs or whatever else. The machine, can go right through a hot rock, and, and the only thing that this machine can't do that no machine can do, I can't put a quarter underneath a beer can and get it. I'm just going to get the can, even though I discriminate out the aluminum. I figured that would be the best test in the whole world. If I can get that quarter through that aluminum can, that'd be awesome. But, it's not there yet.
It'll never be there as
right.
far as that goes. It's just blocking by metal.
Yeah, just blocked, totally masked. But, with the Bliss tool, we can, ground balance to a hot rock, put a bullet on top of it, put a bullet underneath it, doesn't matter. It'll get it, and it'll get it with the right sound and everything. And that's what impressed me about the Quest 40. Considering that it has a low mid-level price for a high, almost to a high-end detector with the settings and everything, but that detector will hit a bullet on top of the hot rock, ground bounce to the hot rock. You can actually get that bullet, which VLFs, a lot of them can't do. Maybe the new ones can, but a lot of the other ones cannot do this. Plus, I could put the bullet underneath the hot rock, a 3-inch thick, 3.5-inch thick hot rock, and get that bullet. Now, the first time I did it with the Quest 40, it came out as a 58 or 52 on the bullet. When it was on top of the hot rock, when I put it underneath, it went down to like a 35 on the VDI number. and it was giving me a little bit lower of a tone, but it's still getting through the hot rock. I thought that was the neatest thing because there's not very many that can even do that. So, and I'm sure I can do that machine tuning. That Quest 40 now, I'm telling you. Well, Craig, you saw those couple of videos that I did. And the guy's like, holy crap, this thing does good, But that's what I found when I turned it on and went with it. I was like, oh, okay, this is impressive. The recovery delay is really good. Man, the VDIs are pretty much dead on. It pinpoints at the right depth within an inch, up to 9-10 inches. That's pretty doggone good. And, I've used machines where every target you get says it's 7 inches in the ground, and you dig it and it's 4 inches. So you're talking about 3 inch, maybe that's a bigger difference right there. So they've definitely on the ball with that. But as an Equinox, I don't know. I've heard different stories about the Equinox. I think they're well liked and everything, but the VDI, a lot of these companies have a problem with that VDI swing, and I don't know why the Quest is not doing it as dramatically. All I can come up with is the way that's processed. There are differences in VLFs, obviously, but they've gotten that one, reasonably 50% ironed out anyways, on the depth, especially the depth indicator for pinpointing. And I really don't use that much. I'm like you, Craig. I go over it. I can tell just by the sound of it how deep it is for the most part. But you're lifting your coil up off the ground, and you only can lift your coil up like maybe 2 or 3 inches. It's a deeper target if it's a coin size. If you're lifting it up to your knee, you know that it's probably sitting on top of the ground, or just like an inch in the ground. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to tell depth. You don't have to have a machine that has pinpoint button. The Blisstal, we don't have any kind of pinpoint button. You just exit. East and west swing and the north and south swing. It's going to be right there, right at the back of that coil or in the front of the coil.
Yeah, the Nautilus, had an all-metal circuit going all the time, but it didn't pinpoint. You had to exit the same way. Or actually, the Deus and the Bliss Tool were the first two I've ever seen where you go to the tips.
Yeah, that's
like that.
Yeah, the Quest is right where the coil shaft connects into the coil, but like the Bliss Tool is at the very end of the coil, at the very front of the coil, and you said the Nautilus is the same way, or Deus is the same way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the only two I found.
It's even got a little notch in the back that you can, it actually pinpoints it to a little tiny area.
Right.
It's kind of the back of the coil is notched a little bit.
Yeah, it's like a versatility thing. He has a few more usable, I don't know, settings, or not settings, but the performance level of the coils, where they pinpoint at. I don't know why. Most of the detectors I've used have always been in the center of the coil, or within reason, right where the coil shaft goes into the coil. And that's where they've pinpointed at. But those are I didn't know the Deus did that too, Craig. But like the Quest, right where the coil shaft goes in. I think the AT Pro is the same way. The CTX is the same way, I believe. The E-Track. I think most of them are in that area, and it's towards the center.
Oh yeah.
So. Yeah, I'm not sure why. That has something to do. This induction balance thing, that's one of the things the Blisstal has. That's what the Quest has. I'm not sure. The Deus doesn't have induction balance, does it, Craig? Or have you ever read that?
I don't know.
We have to check into that. I want to see with these detectors. If you have a detector and you know what it is, you can put it up on chat. I'm just kind of curious whether they're just using a traditional, I guess, I don't know what you'd call, was it OBF or BFO? Balance
frequency oscillator,
right? Or do they use induction balance? This induction balance thing it's something that wasn't possible really in the 70s and 80s, I guess. They couldn't. I read that article. Essentially, they couldn't control it enough. But nowadays, with these circuits the way they are and the computer chips and everything, they've apparently, obviously, found a way to do that. To use induction balance rather than the BCO way it has been for a long time. So they also have something on this Quest, and Craig, I don't know what, I have to look this up too. A static balance, or
probably EMI or something, isn't it?
Well, no, it listed it under. I'm not going to be able to remember now. It's out in my office. In the manual, it said like. All metal discriminating in static balance or static something. It's new terminology. They're using new terms, and I don't know if it's just another name for something that already exists or something that's new. They did that same thing with the, they call it a blade coil, and then instead of, I don't know how, it's just essentially it's a 5x9 coil. And it's just it's a double D coil, but they call it a blade coil. I mean, that's why I'm learning terminologies. There's no set standard really for this kind of stuff, especially if it's a new design or something. They may be able to name it. I don't know how this all works, but it's a little bit different. And I haven't spent enough time with the machine to tell you guys exactly why it's different compared to some of the little bit older machines, but. I just know that 40 is really impressive. The Pro one I don't have enough time with right now. I haven't even done a video with the Pro yet because I'm trying to make sure I have the right information on there for you guys before I actually make a video on it. I don't want to give you the wrong information on settings and stuff. But it definitely impressive just being able to do these basic, you would think were basic things, but they're really hard for some of these VLFs to do. And I think we're going to, in the next 10 years, Craig, God only knows what we're going to see. I think they're going to start, they may very well get started in some totally different kinds of thinking on the frequencies. I don't know, because it seems like we're always running the same, between 5 and, on average, 5 and 40, 5 to 40 on kilohertz, different frequencies. But you see very many that are well over 100. I mean, I know that there's MindLab machines that run a spectrum from, 100 different frequencies or something like that at the same time or something along those lines.
I think it's 28, 37.
Okay.
Like that.
I thought the E-track was more than that, but anyway, okay. But they're trying to run all these frequencies at the same, they're split second. I mean, it's not, it's doing this all faster than you can understand it, but it does run multiple frequencies. The White Spectra V3 had, I think it was 2.5, 12.5, and 22.5. And you could run them all together or you could single them out and run them just one. Now with the Quest, you have, the Quest Pro, you have 3 different frequencies, but I think you only can run them one at a time. I don't think they run all together. I have to look at that and be able to give you guys the right information on that.
Yeah, well, the 800 has also 50 kilohertz.
Yeah. Like I found that the 13.5 or the 13, I was going to say 13 kilohertz for the Quest 40. That's what it's set up with, and the Quest 20 is set up with 5. I think it's 9.5. I have to look at the exact ones, but they're different frequencies they run on. But with the Pro, I found the 13 kilohertz. I love that frequency. It just, for my ground and everything here, it seemed to work really well. Now, if you get into more mineralized ground, you might need to run a higher frequency. I think the gold, of course, gold and stuff like that, you'd want to run that 20 kilohertz or 40 kilohertz, whatever it is. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but
50, I think.
50. Okay, yeah. I wasn't prepared to have that discussion, but of course I'm never prepared for any discussion. It seems like anymore. I told Craig, I said we're going to talk about settings. I've been thinking about settings most of the day because I haven't been able to go out hunting because of the rain and everything. But it's always thinking of what's going to get you the best performance out of it. It's going to find you more stuff. I mean, that's the name of the game there, finding more stuff, more good stuff. So. And don't believe the meters. I mean, as much as you want to, I've seen, and I've done it. I know I've done it in the past. Walked over good targets, not realizing it, at the time, but knowing what I know now. Don't automatically walk over something, man. You're going to kick yourself because eventually you'll come back to that spot and you'll find it and go, why didn't I get the last time? Well, that day you didn't want to mess with that jumpy number. So that's where you get caught up. You start seeing that number jump or whatever, but you're not looking at maybe not looking at the right things at the time. You should be looking at what makes it different. You're getting a high tweak in there. That's what you're listening for. Why is it giving you? Is it giving it to you in both directions? Is it giving it to you as you lift the coil off the ground or lower the coil to the ground? as you're scanning. There's a lot of little telltales. If it hangs on, it's kind of like the bliss tool. If you think you might have a piece of iron, you just speed the coil up, your coil speed, swing speed faster. If it stays locked on, it's going to be non-ferrous. If it lets go at all, it's going to be probably a piece of iron or cast iron or something like that. And that enables me to run a lower discrimination and still use that method to either pinpoint it doesn't pinpoint in the same spot, or if it lets go of it, I know it's going to be iron. So you're finding the loopholes in the law, in the rules of the machine, the way we read about it in the manuals and that kind of thing. The manuals, I mean, like these Quest manuals, they are so simple, guys. Anybody can get through these things in like 10 minutes. I mean, I think there's like maybe 6 pages to the Quest 20 and the Quest 40, well illustrated and everything, but they get the information out there quickly. I think they could have expanded on it a little bit more as far as the FenSen and some of the additional modes they have on there. They do have a troubleshooting section on there, and it's pretty basic. I was so impressed with even the Quest 40 or Quest Pro. I mean, it's nowhere near what the Bliss Tool was. I mean, Bliss Tool was 37 pages or something like that. So,
Yeah.
It was crazy. But, once you get past the instructions,
Plus it was in professional English.
oh, yeah, no kidding, yeah, proper English, yeah, and we need to have common English. But, yeah, we had to read the manual so many times just to get our mind wrapped around how it was being put in there, how the sentences read. You had to read it twice to understand it because, yeah, it's in English, but they didn't put the action words in there properly and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, manuals are, you skip over once you get your machine assembled, you don't need to read that. You don't need to read all the little, about the ratings and all that kind of stuff. You're just looking for the meat and potatoes of the manual. What does the gain do? How do you adjust it? What is the discrimination? How do you adjust it? Is it better to run that? You can get all this information in like 2 or 3 pages and at least have a working idea of how these things could be used together or how to set it up initially. And that's what I've always done. I mean, I used to not do it. I mean, Craig, I know you're the same way, just kind of turn it on and go with it. But I guess when I got that White's machine, I mean, there was no getting around it. I had to go through the manual. And really, if I wanted to get what I can get out of that machine, at a hunt, I had to know what it would do. So he's trying to figure out, he got Nelson Solder in here, he's trying to figure out the 800 in Park 2. It's got 50 tone, wow, but seems to sound off much more than the Park mode. And well, me and Craig just talked about that, Nelson. As far as these tones go, yes, a lot of tones may help you in a way, but it might be information overload. I mean, the way I've done it and what I've been doing it lately was I'm used to dealing with a one-tone machine. So listening to 6 tones like on the Quest 40, I turned it down to 2-tone or 3-tone, and man, I could really tell the difference in the non-ferrous and the ferrous materials a lot better for my ears. You don't if you're a relic hunter, I would say, well, I don't know about on the Equinox or whatever, but I mean like on the Quest, anything 25 or below usually is some kind of iron nails or something like that, unless it's a really small item. So I just set my iron tone to like 26, and that's where it's going to give me that lowest grunt tone. And then everything above that, probably from 26 to, we'll say, 68 or 70 would be another tone, and then from 70 up would be the third tone. You're not making the detector, process all that to give each and everything a tone. Sometimes, like I said, less is more. Sometimes you'll have better luck with and understand it better. I can't keep track of 50 tones. I wouldn't even know what the heck I'd be listening to the high tones and the low tones. I can tell you that now. And if it's mid-range, maybe. I just, you got to be able to wrap your mind around it. But listening to 50 tone, no, I couldn't do that. So everybody has their thing though. Maybe that'll work for some people. And you also got to figure out too the tones, Craig. I mean, some people, I know I am. I got certain tones that I can't hear, and it's from shooting guns and you know big old fireworks and everything else without ear protection. And you know,
Yeah.
I've lost certain tones, but the ones that I do hear, I got you know I can really tell differences, the nuances in these tones, even on the digital machines. And it's the way you train yourself to you know just process of elimination. Really, you go over enough you know good or bad targets, you start figuring them out pretty quick.
Oh yeah.
My biggest thing is when you're going through a site that's been hunted before, it really is noticeable when you go over a good target because you get so used to hearing bad targets. So when something's out of the ordinary, oh, I want to know what that is, and you start getting yourself into this routine, and you start doing that, you really start learning tones better. I don't know. What do you do, Craig? I mean, is that kind of what you're doing too? Sorry.
I liked as many tones as I could get actually, and I used the Explorer and I had it in full tones, and a couple of the other guys I knew that they didn't use it in the tones like that, but I liked it, and you know when they came out with the 3.2 program for the Deus, you know that's when they put the full tones in, and if you look on a lot of the Deus forums and stuff, you know there's a lot of people that use full tones.
I guess it would be it would be helpful. I don't know.
It just gives you more information.
Yeah,
That's what I think. But that's just me. But like on a lot of the other machines, a lot of people. I heard on some of the, I think you can turn the number of tones down or something.
Yeah.
Do tone breaks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that some people are going like 30 tones instead of 50.
Right.
So you might try that. I don't know.
Yeah.
If it's a new machine, start off with the presets, and then I don't know. What I do is I go on forums and stuff. I've already, seen, some pretty good reviews of them on some forums.
Right.
One guy said that he's going to sites that he's been hunting for years,
Right.
And he had a CTX 3030, he has an E-Track, Deus, Nocta, he's got a whole bunch of machines. And he was finding a few things, and a lot of stuff was non-ferrous, but it wasn't anything good.
Right.
But still, it was
Non-ferrous.
stuff that he'd missed, before, because, so he was saying, this one, the CTX missed some of this stuff. But he said the thing is the numbers aren't as good on this machine as they are on the CTX.
Yeah, I did hear that too.
But what he was going with was the sound.
Right.
He said.
Well, I think even these guys that say, I don't do sound machines. I have my screen machine. I like those. But even they say that it comes to a point when you're hunting, that you're going by sound. I mean, they're saying it. I mean, I'm not really getting a good VDI, but it sounds good. I'm going to dig it. Trust your ears. Your ears are telling you. I mean, sight is okay and everything, but Craig and I both had machines where the meter wouldn't even read, but I'm getting a repeatable whisper tone, and I'm going to dig that. But even though the meter's telling me it's not there, don't be a meter slave to that meter or that VDI number. I mean, you'll screw yourself out of some more targets.
Well, it depends on what kind of digging you're going to do too.
Yeah.
If you're in a park,
you
want to go by the meter more.
Right.
Probably.
Be like a rototiller.
If it's a hammered park, then you probably want to take some more chances on if your targets.
Right.
And not worry so much. Go by the tone rather than the VDI numbers, because there's probably not going to be many. If it's a hammered place.
Yeah, I can still remember Chuck Smiley using that CTX and with the stock coil, and he was, we were on a beach in Chicago, and I was just filming, filming them metal detecting and stuff. And we were at that hunt, and he said he's getting a signal. He goes, man, this is kind of junky, but I think this might be a dime. And he kicked about 2 inches of sand out of the way, Went over. He goes, I'm getting something at 9 inches now, and I think this is going to be a dime. And the VDI number was jumping all over the place. He dug down. Sure enough, it was a silver dime. But that just comes with experience. That comes with knowing your machine. I mean, he knew that machine pretty doggone good. And to go from obviously something that was well out of the detection depth for the most part, and he's just going by tone, hearing this silver dime down there when the VDI wasn't coming up. That made me a believer of that. All just watching him do that. And I was with the bliss tool, which I didn't have that option. If it sounded good, I'd dig it. But even then, I had to switch from the 15-inch coil to the 11-inch coil. I was tired of digging 14 inches down for pennies, new pennies. It was crazy because they had a big swell or pushed a lot of sand in, and it was burying fresh change, 12 to 14 inches down in there. That 15-inch coil, I was digging my butt off for, pennies and new pennies and dimes and stuff like that, by the water's edge. It was just so deep. So I just put the 11-inch coil on and just went, farther up, a little bit farther up the beach and stuff to get to some older stuff. I think, I think I dug a buffalo nickel up there too. But, I don't know if I'd done that with the 15-inch coil. I mean, I just walked on it, because it became too many targets. I've dug $8 and change out of a hole down here in Clearwater, or between three holes, $8 and change. That gets monotonous after a while down there with a pinpointer eventually, because you just got these coin spills where everything's settled into these cuts. And how do you pick out, where the gold is, Craig? You're just digging one, coin after another. There could be rings down there. There could be anything deeper than that, but you got to get through all that change to get to the gold, because the gold's going to sink deeper and the sinker's going to sink deeper, in the sand there than the change does. And if you're digging, pull tabs at 2 inches and everything else is, 6 to 10 inches down in the sand, obviously, you're going to have more down in there. If a cut brought in that much change and stuff, it's got to be some gold in there too. And I just haven't got my coil over it or whatever. But yeah, that drove me nuts that day. I was done after 3 holes. We just kept on getting coin after coin after coin out of it. And Mike had that happen to him. Mike Miller, he was at a hunt, or not a hunt, but he went hunting with a guy, and they were hunting near a sandbar or something like that. But he said, "My God, I've never dug so much change in my life." In like 2 or 3 holes, they were done. It's just you're so wore out. But they were also in the water too, so that makes a lot of difference. So, just working in that environment. And I never thought I would ever complain about too many targets, Craig. That's one thing I always thought was funny with the bliss tool. A couple of the guys, I just don't want to dig that deep anymore. For years, everybody's saying, well, I wish I could get deeper. That was big in like 2009, 10, and everything. Oh, I've got to get, I wonder when somebody's going to finally get a 10-inch dime or whatever. And, here we have a machine do it. And the guy's saying, well, I dig too much. I'm digging too deep. I don't need a machine that gets that deep. I'm like, I never thought I'd ever hear that in my life, but I believed it that day when I was digging the coins on the beach, let me tell you. It's like, good gosh. But yeah, it just, I guess, when you just get a new machine in general, it just, I don't know, sparks new life into the hobby. I guess that's probably why I've bought so many machines over the years and got used to, there's always something better, always something, that can do more. And when you find one, you want to grab a hold of it and just go for broke. And then all of a sudden, you end up getting another machine. My wife says I have an addiction problem with metal detectors. I think I'm in good company though. Craig and you and Bill Marsh and well, I see Tom's on here tonight. 3 Ringers on here tonight. I know he has an addiction problem too with metal detecting. I think all of us do. Barb does, and we like the high, but we hate the abuse of it all. Getting out there and keep on doing it, learning more and more. Well, see, Barb took the big step. She went into pulse induction detectors. That GPX. Like, oh my God, I can't even imagine doing that. Not that I have anything against pulse. I just don't want to learn a whole new system. I'd be trying to incorporate VLF into pulse, and it doesn't work real good sometimes. So. But yeah.
What if they had one that switched back and forth from VLF to pulse?
Oh, that'd be awesome. That'd be the best. hunt with pulse, and you get a signal and switch it over to VLF. Yeah.
Just to check for nails and stuff, you know.
I wonder if they'll ever come up with a pulse induction machine that actually has uh, noticeable discrimination on iron targets. I don't know. I mean, there is a way to tell, obviously, but more pronounced or more VLF-like discrimination. And I don't know if that's possible or not.
Might be.
Yeah, I can't find it now. Bill Marsh put something on there, made me laugh. Oh, my therapy is going well, Derek. Dirt therapy. It's a good one, Bill. Yeah, we're all dirty-minded. That's all there is to it. Yep, we're relic hunters. But somebody mentioned gold. Yeah, that was another thing, Craig, with that Quest 40 was hitting that 0.9 gram nugget at like 4 or 5 inches above the coil, or I mean below the coil. I was like, that's pretty impressive on a small piece of gold like that. And I can get it like between say 5 and 7 inches with the bliss tool. Sometimes a little bit, on an air test. Now it's not in the ground. Usually in the ground it does better. I think I did it on the wet salt sand, 8 inches on that. And that's a really small. It's like a stud earring size nugget. Raw gold's going to be harder to get than you'd say like a gold coin, I would think. Because the process, of course the coin's been processed a lot more. But I'm kind of curious with the guy in Australia what he's finding. He said he used that bliss tool for 3 years. I wonder how much gold he's found with it over there. 5 years. Oh, 5 years. Okay.
Yeah.
He's probably pretty vicious. I know I sold a couple into California. They were, was one guy bought one and he bought 3 more, and then he went and bought V6s. But gold prospectors, they get real funny about saying anything of what they're finding. They get real close. Well, you don't blame them, really. They don't want to let out where they're finding stuff or whatever, but I just kind of always wanted to know. I mean, if you're buying, using these detectors and you're buying more of them, must be working for you. I just always wanted to know what he was finding and how deep it was, and how well it was working in like crevices and stuff like that in the bedrock. There's a lot of them, dig down in between the cracks in the bedrock and pull out these gold, little gold pickers and stuff like that. How it was doing in that environment. Must be doing good, or you wouldn't be buying them, right? So I'll see, but. Yeah, I'd probably wrap it up for tonight, Craig. I'm about ready just to fall asleep here talking to my own self. It's been a long, long day, a long week trying to get stuff ready for the Memorial Day, and I hope everybody has a good, safe holiday and everything, and, spend some time with the family and friends, enjoy yourself, and, just take it easy, man. Life's getting too crazy right now, I think. All this stuff going on, we got to slow down a little bit and just enjoy life a little bit. When you can, because boy, I tell you, I don't know what you're paying for fuel, Craig. I was freaking out about it today. It's almost up to $2.90 a gallon where I'm at. It's probably cheaper than some of the places around the country, obviously. But
I think it was $2.69.
Like that. Now how does that work?
That's 10 cents more than it was the other week.
You guys are only paying $2.69, really? I'm serious. We're $2.89 today. Where I got fuel at. I was like, what the heck, man? We're in Florida. We're right by, we got all these, ports and everything else like that. I just don't know what's going on. Doesn't make sense. You're up in Virginia. Well, of course, you have big ports up there, too, but just the taxes, I guess, is what it is more than anything else, probably. Seems like when that starts going up, everything does.
Northern Virginia is a little bit, much higher.
Mm-hmm.
But, everything up here in the valley is a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Especially taxes.
Hey, that's why I keep all the scrap metal. When I find stuff, brass and copper pieces and aluminum, everything else, I just bring it all home, throw it in totes, and when I get them all full, I just take them over to the recycler. That's fuel money or whatever. I mean, with these fuel prices going up, the scrap prices will go up too. So, that's a good time to take your old brass stuff and everything else you find that you don't, just it's no good or it's more modern or whatever. But I find a lot of those brass faucet handle or faucets from like outdoor hose, fittings, those brass ones. I think I have about 3/4 of a 5-gallon bucket full of those things. And I'll take them over there for the brass price and just recycle them, and better than throwing them in the garbage can, right? So.
Yeah, I saw Nugget Noggin. I didn't watch the video, but he supposedly took 700 pounds of iron to the scrapyard.
Yeah. See,
in his truck.
I survived on scrap metal for about a year and a half after my accident and all that stuff. I couldn't do a lot, but I could drive a vehicle around, and people would throw the stuff in the back of my trailer. I mean, Craig, there's been times where I probably made $400, $500, $600 going to taking a scrap metal, depending what it is. And iron, I never turned my nose up at it because it was like 12 cents a pound. But when you have a whole trailer load of it and packed in there, well, I made pretty good money on steel. But you always had the nice finds where you find copper and everything.
I think it was 10 cents a pound.
Yeah.
That he was getting.
It's not bad. It's, depending if you just have it laying around, what the heck, just might as well just scrap it, get it out of the yard or whatever. I know my pickup truck probably looks like a lot of y'all, so I know it, I've hunted with a couple of you guys on here, and we end up having more metal in the back of our truck just laying in there from 3 months ago. My wife gets on my case about that. She goes to load something in my truck. What the heck is all this metal doing in here? I can't even put my stuff in here. I said, oh, that's okay. I'll unload it sometime. And I remember one time she made me mad. Remember that? When I put the tailgate down, she's right here right now. And I backed up like 20 mile an hour and hit the brakes, and all the metal came out onto the pavement right there right in front of my shop. That your damn truck's unloaded now, isn't it? I was in a doghouse for about a week after that, I think. I don't think she spoke to me. Hey, I have a way of doing it, I didn't want to take the time to do it. So you know what? I have brakes and I have reverse, so that's all that matters.
Yep.
And she's telling me right
now. Good thing she wasn't in the way.
No, I would never do that. He was saying, good thing you weren't in the way. As you know what? She's the sweetest woman in the world, but when she gets spiteful, I think she probably would have dented the bumper kicking it when I was backing up. That's how mean my wife can be. She's just giving me that look right now. You know it. So at any rate. Oh, shoot. But yeah, Craig, we'll wrap it up for tonight. We thank you guys for listening and liking the show and everything and following us. I was looking at our stats on there. We may be over 16,000 followers now or something like that. It's getting up there. Glad you guys like the show. If you have ideas and stuff like that, or you want to be on the show, just message me or whatever. We'll get you put on there and talk about metal detecting or what you do in metal detecting or other hobbies. Doesn't really matter. We just kind of go with the flow and let the show take a path that it wants to take. So I guess we'll wrap it up. You can check out, Craig just changed our Bliss Tool America site to Hardcore Metal Detecting site on Facebook.
It's still called Bliss Tool America, but I basically put a banner up with the Spreaker and the channel and everything. So I'm kind of promoting it more through that.
Yeah, check it out, because I'm going to go over to it. He put some photos and a video up on there and stuff. We still have all the old content on there too, right, Craig? All the other stuff.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that's going to stay on there, but I'm just putting up a little bit different stuff for kind of promoting the radio show now.
Oh, okay.
So I figured that since we're not selling Bliss anymore,
don't really need it.
We can still help people out through that site, but I wanted to go ahead and promote the show more.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
yeah, we have the hardcore Facebook page, and then Craig's switched the Bliss Tool America Facebook page is now going to be a hardcore metal detecting page. We haven't decided. I don't think you've decided how you want to run that, Craig. But as the weeks go on, if you want to run it a different way or whatever, we can do that too. We'll just let these guys know. So. And we are still in the process, and a lot of it's my fault. It's just been a crazy couple months. I haven't had the time to do the final touches on the new sites we were going to be bringing out this month. So that is on me, but we will have them up. I think you guys are really going to like them. I'm really trying to go all out on them. So Be fun for the for you all, and fun for us too, because we get to read all the stuff too. It's going to incorporate a lot of different hobbies and stuff. So I think you guys are going to like it. But we'll talk more about that next time. Craig, we'll wrap it up for tonight, and be sure to tell a friend out there. We don't really do any advertising, and we thank you guys for letting us put up our advertisement for our the radio show on your pages, your Facebook pages and stuff. Always wanted to thank you guys for that and remind you that we appreciate it. So that's about the only way we even get the show's name out there. So if you can tell a friend about the show, and maybe they like metal detecting or thinking about getting into it, it'd be great. So until the next time, guys, you get out there and keep digging. God bless.